funny in a studio to pretend the mic isn't working like I just did, like you just witnessed, and be like, and then the engineer's like, what the heck's going on? And you're like, ha ha, that's a joke. And then it's great because the engineer doesn't like you and it can make you sound really bad when you're working.
I've never done that, but I'm going to on Monday.
Marlon's really good at that. Expensive mic. So dumb.
Oh, I heard the best joke. Have we started? I'm sorry.
I mean, we can start whenever you want, but we can keep doing the story thing. It is your room.
Oh.
I want to hear your story. I want to hear your story, and then I want to know who you are.
Oh, sure. It's a joke. It's, how heavy is a red hot chili... Oh, wait. Yeah, no. How can you tell how heavy a red hot chili pepper is?
I want to say something about socks, but that's not appropriate based on the band. I don't know. How do you know the weight, how heavy red hot chili pepper is, Trina? It's already funny. That's great.
Give it away now.
Are you a dad?
I'm the worst at telling jokes, and I've been really trying to remember them more and more, and I find that if I tell them more, then I remember them more, but I already messed that one up.
That is totally the thing. I have joke amnesia. I hear a joke, oh, that's the one I'm going to lead with, and I'm like, hey.
How did we not get you for Who's Line later?
Yeah, it's so bad. But that reminds me of a friend. My friend's girlfriend would always say jokes like that and mess them up. And she would say things like, did you know that the word gullible is in the dictionary? No, it's not. I mean, it's not. It's not in the dictionary. Right. Well, it's not that.
I like it. I was trying to tell, I can't remember what it's like, what's yellow and, oh wait, I already ruined it. I'm sorry.
Could you do a whole stand-up where it's just ruining your own jokes? I think that would.
That was actually my very first stand-up that I ever tried. I was like, so, hi, I'm Trina, and I have some jokes. And then I just proceeded to ruin all of them for about 10 minutes. And I was like, stand-up's not
That's
for
my
me.
time.
That's my time. And everyone's just like,
What? I would love to see that.
it was really awful. It was mostly about farting and yoga.
Oh, but combined. Like farting during yoga.
Yeah, not just farts or just yoga. It was people that fart in yoga. So it was funnier in my
Go
head.
yoga and farts.
Go yoga. That sounds dirty. Hello, my name is Trina Nishimura. Hello. Thank you so much for coming out to see us today, and thank you for having me here at this beautiful convention. I have to say, the cosplay at this convention is better than any cosplay I've seen in the entire world. It's awesome.
She's been around the world.
I've been around the world. I don't know why I had to sing it. Yeah, so I'm Trina, and I'm really excited to be here, and all of you are beautiful and lovely and wonderful, and I look forward to your questions or comments or quips or quiddities or quibbles or queries.
My name is Michael Sinterniklaas, and I'm the one next to Trina Nishimura. When you said you're beautiful, I was so compelled just to go, no matter what they say. But
Yes, please sing that. I mean, or just keep going.
but sing it like Kermit the Frog, like it is it? No matter what they say. But I think that song is weird because I'm like, if I was told I think you're beautiful, no matter what they say, I'm going to be focused on who said what. Is that like a backhanded compliment song? I don't know. Like you're controlling a horrible boyfriend. You're like, oh no, I think you're beautiful. They think you suck, but I think you're great. I don't know what's going on.
I feel like that's abuse. Like,
Is that what that song is?
Yeah, that's poor Christina Aguilera. Oh, semantics.
I don't know what I'm talking about. My name is Michael, and I am a voice actor, and I do things with my voice, and I also direct. I have a studio that's bi-coastal, and I work with New York and LA actors, and sometimes I'm lucky enough to work with some Texas actors, and we just did a thing together, actually. I guess we can talk about it.
I don't think we can.
We can't, but we mentioned it, but we can't talk about it. There's a difference legally, so I'm saying. Anyway, so
So keep an eye on IMDb, and when you see both their names next to each other,
Yeah, you'll know that was the thing that we didn't talk about, but you're welcome for letting me know it existed.
He's very funny. Are you guys having a good time today? Yes. I like that there's one lovely lady in the middle who's like, I'm having a good time.
Golf clap. Yeah, P.S. Yeah, the cosplay is on point. It's bananas. I love photography. I have this great old style German camera that's manual and everything, and like the colors are popping on all y'all. Thank you for that. It's great. I'm impressed. I can't do that. I do a lot of things in the arts, but I cannot. I tried sewing in college. I had to do a costuming class. We made a cape, which could also be a skirt, depending on what you wanted to use it for, and a laundry bag. I still use that laundry bag, but it took me forever, and I was like, I'm going blind doing this. So I have super mad props for all the crafty folks out there.
It's true. I mean, the amount of technical knowledge it takes just to like put stuff together. I was on the elevator yesterday with a woman who had, or a girl, who had made her own costume, and I was holding her hoop skirt while I was like pinned in the corner. I was like, you look amazing! She was like, thanks for holding it. Somebody was talking about her gems that she had glued on, and they're like, what did you use for that? She's like, E5200. And I'm like, sure, yeah, that's the best glue.
Is that the one that tried to kill RoboCop? Like the next BB-8? I got in an elevator with a cup of coffee, and two girls with hoop skirts went, because it was like perched on my iPad, and I was like, There were no spills, it was fine. Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're going to take this panel seriously in 5, 4, pause. 3.5. I would like to do one thing. I hope it's not embarrassing, but it was a very lovely lady's birthday 2 days ago.
Oh, yay!
And I kind of, is it weird? It's wave hi, it's birthday girl.
Hey!
I kind of want to sing happy birthday to her because it's a thing.
And she's lovely and beautiful.
She's all those things and more. And my birthday was always in the summer, so like all my friends were gone at the time. So yeah, what should we call it? Should we, I know it's Bella. Bella, but breezy sometimes. What should it be? Okay, Bella.
Will you come up here so we can all sing happy birthday to Bella? Do you guys mind? It's going to be amazing.
Two Bellas.
Yay! We're going to hold her hand. This is Bella. She's beautiful.
No matter what they say, Bella.
Oh. No, you are beautiful. Are you guys ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you, Bella. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bella.
Start with the scarf, Bella.
Happy birthday to you. You're a teenager now. I feel like we should write a punk rock song of like you're a teenager now.
Wait. Now
Now it's fun. That makes it fun. What happened, all the good stuff? So who has a question? Oh my goodness.
So for everybody's got a question, if you want to, if we got 5 or 6 people, just hold up the line real thin out and you'll get a chance. Come line up here, as I said, 4 or 5 at a time. Speak clearly into the microphone if you know how. Step up to the black line, and no asking for photographs, no asking for autographs. All that can be done at the autograph sessions.
At 3.
At 3.
3 to 4:30.
So I've got a kind of weird question, but so there was a Vsauce video that postulated this idea that the funniest joke you'll have ever heard, if you're over the age of 40, you've already heard it. And if you're under the age of 40, you probably haven't.
Okay.
And I'm interested to know your thoughts on that because like the whole like what you guys talked about jokes and stuff earlier.
That's fascinating. I think that they say every story's been told, so maybe in that way the jokes may change shape, but they'll just like reference different things or make fun of a different group, inappropriate. But the jokes may be based on the same thing. I don't know. I am old enough to maybe have heard of a joke before, but since I keep forgetting them, like I have Alzheimer's, then I couldn't be a good barometer of that because I may have forgotten the joke I've heard. So I think if you're over 40, then you have forgotten every joke and it's all new again. I don't know. That doesn't make sense.
I thought that was a perfect answer. I feel like there are always new jokes though. Like there are different iterations of the same old jokes, but there's always new jokes and new content. Like, for example, how funny it is to sing something like, baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark doo 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 doo, and then everyone's like, oh, that's the worst. But it's funny to me because now every single one of you is singing baby shark doo 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 in your head.
Did I tell you I met the people who make Baby Shark?
No.
Just before this conference, actually, there's a thing called Kids Screen Summit. It is a children's content marketplace. They used to have it in New York. Then we got frozen in so many times that people couldn't go around to wherever they were from around the world. So now it's in Miami, where it never gets frozen over. A year ago, last week, I met this Korean lady. She's like, "Oh, we're from I don't know what the name of the company is anymore. I want to see Bing Pong. That's like somewhere between what? Ping Pong. Ping Pong. That's right. How did you know? Did you know her too? That's right. So she's like, Ping Pong. I'm like, oh, that sounds cute. She's like, we make Baby Shark. And I was like, who's a baby what? And then she's like, Baby Shark. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
You didn't know what Baby Shark was?
Not a year ago, and now I can't not. But yeah. And then I was like, 700 million views. And when I said that to someone yesterday, they were like, it's like over 1 billion now. I was like, yeah. I knew Baby Shark, but it was just 700 million.
Both You Are Beautiful and Baby Shark are on the list of songs that you can pull up for karaoke in this room tonight.
Hey. Do you even need the lyrics for Baby Shark?
I feel like it's just baby, then mama, then daddy, then
And this is the end?
granny, grandma shark.
I'm already on book. Woo. Oh, P.S. Get ready. Hold on to your pants. This guy's voice is amazing.
It's true.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
I like how it's like, dang.
Well, anyways, I'll get to my question. I'd like to know...
Don't get your question. Take as long as you need.
I'd like to know...
And now Baby Shark.
Baby shark. Mommy shark. What comes after mommy? Daddy or maybe it's two mommies. Who knows?
Hey, mommy, mommy shark, daddy, daddy shark,
Yeah. All right.
nondescript, orphan shark.
Little orphan sharky.
Adopted shark.
Adopted shark, foster child. Run.
Widowed shark.
Let's get real dark.
Thanks to the shark.
Real dark to the shark. Oh yes, my question. So, as you're both voice actors, you both do a lot of character voices. I want to know, how do you keep the character voice while getting into emotional scenes? I noticed that, again, especially in like older anime, some of them might have had trouble with it. So, as far as the character voices go, how do you maintain it when you're getting all emotional, bawling, screaming, and all that?
That's a good question.
That's an excellent question. It is an excellent question. Character voices can be a little tricky because it's not necessarily something that you're accustomed to doing or super familiar with. Especially for me, specifically, personally, monsters are always hard for me, like doing a monster voice. They're also the most fun person. Yeah, it's frequently like there's a character in a show called Negima. And his name is Matsu, and he's like this little edamame bean, but he's a frog. And his best friend is Shichumi, and it's a cotton ball, but she's a cat. And it was me and Brina, and we're best friends in real life. We're best friends in the show. I'm sorry. And yeah, so Matsu sounded like this, and he didn't really emote very much because he just sounded like this. And he was either excited or not excited. But as far as characters that are character voices, I guess, that aren't like people voices, is that kind of where we are?
Or yeah, just like some of the
weirder voices, anything, you know.
or like just something that is considerably different from your natural voice. Because like I've seen some cartoons where like suddenly they'll lose the character voice all of a sudden when they're getting emotional.
Yeah, sure. When I'm directing stuff, I think that's something that I try to keep my ear out for, keeping them on model for the character voice, especially if it's not as drastically different a voice. If it's such a different like, then whatever you do is going to sound, you know, it's going to be affected by that character shape. So it's easier to make things that are very emotional in a very simple character. If it's a character that's close to your original voice, people have a way of You know, it's harder to change what you're doing if you're going really loud, if you're yelling and screaming. And if you're crying and you're tapping into your emotions, it's easy to get sucked into your own emotions, right? So I do find sometimes on emotional things, actors I have to direct against going too close to themselves. There's one actress I worked with in my first dub ever in LA, thousands of years ago, that really wanted to take this role really seriously, and in the emotional stuff, when her friend gets killed in front of her and she wants to go, she was like, I'm going to really cry, like make sure the levels are good, I'm really going to go for it. I'm like, okay, that's good, and then she went from her character voice to of her own voice, and I was like, it's not the same.
Right.
It's someone else crying, it's not you crying. I don't want you to draw up your own trauma necessarily to make it that. This moment is different. Use as-ifs and stuff, but sometimes it's not useful to bring up anything that'll make you cry when the character's circumstance is different. It may take you to a different place. I don't know if that's helpful, but you know. So I find, I don't know, that's a lot of things I just said. But.
No, it makes perfect sense. So maybe explain as if to them.
So this idea of as if. So you can say like, well, I've never been in a situation where robots were shooting my parents.
Right.
But what if? Like, what would that be like to me? And then you can just let that imagination take you, and if you can really run with it, then you can find the real emotional place of your character. If I'm thinking, I was really upset when this other thing happened, where I didn't get into my, college of choice, and I cried about it, that's going to be a different kind of moment, and it might make you cry differently. Also, if you make it, I really do believe in bringing your own truth to the character, but you got to be careful on certain things that, especially if it's going to be something like crying, which crying is particularly hard for voice actors in some cases because the sound of crying can also sound like laughing. I have that happen a lot where they're like, and that's the way they cry, but it sounds, if you don't see it, you don't see the tears, you're hearing like a turkey laughing. So if it's a super extreme character, like, that's not how I would cry, but I can do that, and it won't ever run the risk of sounding like me, because I'm going the whole time. But if it's a dude who's like me crying, then it can sound like me, and if he might cry different than me, then I've got to really think about that and adjust for it. I feel like I'm not giving real answers, but it's a trap that you can fall into.
It's totally true, and like the physicality of it, like if you're playing a larger character than what you are, and where you carry your voice, and if you're playing a chubbier character, your cheeks look like, I have big cheeks.
I have seen people actually manipulate their face, too, to like change the way they sound. I mean, I do it when a character gets like smacked in the face. I'd be like, press one half of your mouth and go, well, that hurt. But some people actually would do like, I'm chubby, and then do the like chubby baby voice by holding their face together. Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'm Mitch McConnell.
I'm sorry, I'm easy to laugh. Hi. Hi, how are you? Good.
I just want to say something real quickly to Ms. Nishimura. I'm so
You're in that
sorry.
show, right?
I am in that show.
I'm so sorry if I butchered your name, but
Oh, it's okay.
you have been a real inspiration to me, as well as everyone else in the Attack on Titan English dub crew. You and everyone else have gotten me through difficult times, through bullying and all of that. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay, babe.
And I just really want to say thank you for everything that you've done for me. You've inspired me. All of you have. And I do have a question for both of you, which is, what was one of the hardest things of voice acting that you've ever had to do?
Well, thank you for that. That's very, very sweet, and I really do appreciate that so much. I will say that I would like to take a lot of credit, because who doesn't want to take a lot of credit, right? I would like to take a lot of credit, but the entire cast of Attack on Titan is so talented and so great. But Mike McFarland, the director who cast everyone and who made that entire show so relevant and so important and poured his heart and soul into it. So a lot of that credit goes to Mike McFarland, the director, who also plays Jean. But thank you. I really do appreciate that. And if I may get on a small soapbox for just a moment, I think if I can speak to Attack on Titan, and what I feel makes it super important is that it is so relevant to the time that we live in now, right? There are characters in the show that don't follow the stereotypical archetypes of what a woman should be or what a man should be, right? And there's an entire character that isn't assigned a gender. And I think that's very important. The reason I think Attack on Titan does resonate with so many people is that even though we don't have to worry about a Titan opening up the ceiling and grabbing all of us like popcorn and eating us, everybody has a Titan in their life, right? Maybe it's bullying, or maybe it's an eating disorder, or maybe it's food insecurity, or maybe it's illness or poverty, or any number of things. And I think that that shows like Attack on Titan or any anime help people that feel like they don't have something or are fighting something. It kind of inspires them to fight things. And I really, really do appreciate your input, and it means the world to me and to everyone in the cast, but especially Mike, because he's dope AF. I didn't say it. So thank you for that. And as far as challenging roles, I have played some challenging roles in my lifetime. There was one, it's back on the soapbox, there was one challenging role that I played in a show called Speed Grapher. It was a young girl who was kidnapped from her family and sold into slavery, specifically human trafficking, right? And while it was a dark and hard role to encapsulate and figure out mentally and emotionally, I think it's really important because even though it was hard for me to do, it also is a direct reflection of our society, right? People are trafficked all around the world, even in the United States. And being able to bring light to that in a way that is palatable to raise awareness for things, I think is so important. While that's challenging to emotionally go there, it's also, I feel, a responsibility of artists in any genre to reflect society and the world. So that's hard for me. And making funny edamame voices for hours. Also challenging.
You can be challenging.
Yeah.
I wanted to, oh sorry, I just bit the holes I was sucking on. Now I got like splinters. I just wanted to get on a tiny soapbox for 2 seconds and say, I also was bullied a lot growing up. I was always the new kid. I grew up in London and then moved to Las Vegas when I was 10 years old. That was a culture shock. I was fat. I had braces with headgear, I had a ton of acne, and I talked funny because I grew up in London. Now, if you're a grown-up and you have a British accent, ooh, that's sexy. When you're 10, fat, headgear, and zips, you're not. And arguably, you shouldn't be sexy when you're 10 years old either way. So that's fine. But I was super picked on, super bullied, and like that was always a thing. So I'm always sort of on the lookout for that stuff. Whenever I got to a school and there was a newer kid, I always try to like welcome them and like include them and invite them to the table or whatever. I think that's like including people for me is really important. It's actually a big reason why I go to conventions. I'm a very busy person going between the coasts and running a company as well as directing, as well as acting. And I just want to like meet other nerds like I was and be like, hey, it's cool, and we're all doing things together, and that's what I love about the anime community. So I like when we all come together, and I hope you continue to come together even when other things are purely smart. The thing about voice acting, there have been a couple of characters. Oh, okay, so in Full Metal Alchemist, I played a kid named Leo, also directed by the dope Mike Farman. And when he cast me as Leo, I thought it was funny because I was at the time playing Leonardo with the Turtles, and I was like, oh, I know why they cast me. He's like, huh? I was like, because Leo, right? And he's like, what? I was like, oh, it's so embarrassing. But Leo's mom, he had a whole thing about her thinking that she abandoned him when really she was deaf, she was blind, it's been so long. But,
Please silence your cell phones.
basically, like, he loses his mom, and there's this weird fallout where he later understands where he thought he was abandoned by her. Really, there was a misunderstanding, but now she's gone, he can't rectify that. I had lost my mom fairly recently, and I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to play this, I'm going to play it right. But more challenging than that was actually directing Jungle Emperor Leo, which was the Kim of the White Lion movie that they came out with right after home video release of Lion King. It was like the month my mom had passed away, and the translator of Media Blasters reached out to the license holder and asked if it was okay that the director of the dub put a memorial credit in the title in the end sequence, and they let me. So that's the reason that I did that movie when I should have just been dealing with working with my mom. But in the story, the mother gets sick, this plague that sweeps through the whole jungle, and then she has to die. And there's this tragic scene where she's on her deathbed talking to her children. And I was like, well, I did it with Veronica Taylor, formerly Ash from Pokemon. She's an incredible actor and a great person. And I was like, well, she knew what happened. She's like, are you okay? I was like, if we're going to tell the story, we're going to tell it authentically. And hopefully for any kid maybe who's lost a parent, they see that, and there'll be some resonance. I don't think that movie's going to change anyone's life or, like help them through that time, but I just thought since I was going through this, there's a way to tap into that truth and make this not just a melodramatic scene, but like find the truth in that passing. So the hardest thing for me was directing a scene with mom dying like 2 weeks after my mom died. Sorry.
No, I think
You asked.
that's an excellent question. And to speak more to your point about bullying, just out of curiosity, and if you don't feel comfortable, I completely understand. But by show of hands, who in this room has been bullied in their lifetime? Right? So that's just about everybody. Everyone's been bullied. Everybody's had a hard time. So I think there's a really great community here, and I'm very grateful for your honesty and for all of y'all's honesty. Bullying sucks. The bullies are just people too, and they're hurting too. So I don't know. I say that, bye, but I say that. But I went to like my high school reunion. I was like, I'm gonna find my bully and I'm gonna tell her something. And then I totally forgot. Like I was there and I forgot. And my friend was like, oh, what did you tell your bully? I was like, I didn't see her. She was like, you talked to her for like 30 minutes. I was like, oh, huh.
Oh, that's right, she did.
Yeah, it gets easier. It gets better.
Hi, how you guys doing today?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. So, I'm kidding. So, I'm an aspiring voice actor, and my question really is, when you guys were starting out for your voice reels, what kind of voices did you do, and how many did you normally put on your voice reel?
When I was starting out, I didn't have a reel. Because I was an actor when I was a kid, and I went to college, and I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer because I'm responsible fiscally, and I want a 401k and a mortgage and the house and the collie or the labradoodle, whatever. Yeah, I didn't have a reel initially, and as far as reels go, when you're starting out, the best advice that I can give to you for reels is to not do somebody else's voice. I would recommend not doing Donald Duck. It's fine.
I was thinking of doing Kermit the Frog.
But I'm sure you can speak to reels more than I can as a director and owner of a company.
Here's the funny thing. I also didn't have a reel. That's why I went, ooh, and I looked at you to see what you would say. It's pathetic. I never had a reel, but today I actually don't have a reel. It's nuts. The thing is, I got in, there was an audition, I did a thing, I went to school for acting, I was trained like my whole childhood, and then I went to a classical theater conservatory in North Carolina, and then my mom got sick, and then I stayed in North Carolina instead of going back to New York, and then I heard about auditions for an anime. No one in town knew what an anime was, except for the one dude who licensed it, and I got to audition for the second thing they did, and it was Bubblegum Crisis, which I had watched, and was super jazzed about. So I went to a town call, I was number 273, and I got the role of Young Mackie, and then that got parlayed into working in the studio, where they did not pay me, and I had to make coffee, but I grew up in London, so I can't make coffee, I can only make tea. Coffee's so bad that they promoted me. They're like, Randy, he sucks at making coffee, can you get him a job? So fail up, that's my advice. And then I ended up, they taught me to engineer so that I could backseat direct for the owner. But this all happened without that. And then now that I was working there and I was already in stuff, like, oh, this guy knows what's going on, like, and they brought me for more stuff. So I got into the community and then worked from there. And then the Turtles thing happened when an actor friend made me crash that audition. And that's a longer story, but I didn't have a demo there. When I went in to crash the audition, and I thought I was going to be taken out by the police, they said, no, you can come back after 6, but we're all full up today. How'd you hear about this? And I was like, voice coach, because my friend had a voice coach that told her about it, whatever.
Right.
But then I said, hey, do you need me to bring anything? like a demo or a headshot. Neither of which I had, and then they were like, no, but here's some scripts, which is a good thing because I didn't have anything to rehearse otherwise, but I would say, yeah, you should totally do that. And the old advice I would always give, sorry, that was a long-winded answer for I don't have one, but keep it short. Record all the stuff you want to do, and then cull it. And then when you think it's tight, cut it in half. It should not be more than 2 minutes. No one's going to listen to even that. Now things are even less than that. The old days of having a demo tape are sort of gone. Of course, nobody uses tape anymore, but even with CDs or even with like, USB sticks or even sending a link is useful because I get a lot of people sending my studio, I want to work with you guys, and then I don't know what to do with them. We don't usually have time anymore for having a general, which is when you go in. Like they'll do this in bigger studios. Like Disney will do this. You can go in for a general. We'll speak. And be like, oh, you're an actor. You've done all this stuff. What do you like? Where can we put you? And they'll sometimes give you some advice. For instance, Disney doesn't like very breathy voices. They like sharp voices. Generally speaking, I mean, there'll be exceptions, but by and large, that's what they go for. So they'll tell you, like, this is what we're looking for. Can you do this? Can you do this? Throw you some coffee, and then you leave. But if you're sending stuff around, have a link to something they can listen to. And because attention spans are lowered, people don't listen to albums anymore. They listen to hooks and then they skip to the next track. Front load it with whatever you think is best. Don't copy someone else. They already have that job. Though sometimes they're looking for a match. If you can do really drastically amazing things, throw it in there, but don't put it at the top. If I start a tape and I hear like Bugs, Homer, whatever, I'm like, I don't know what to do with that exactly. We want to hear what you really sound like as well, because some of the stuff you get cast in is your type, your voice, and they're looking for that authenticity as well. It doesn't have to be crazy produced sound effects, whatever. Just show us the voice and show us beyond the voices you can do. So a motto of my studio, this is our screensaver all over the New York studio, choices greater than voices. You do funny voices, a lot of people have great voices, but can you tell me something or can you tell the truth with your voice? That's the main thing I listen for now. Whereas before it was more like types, now we're really listening harder to see if we think you can really act. That's, to us, more important than the voice. And we'll choose performance over voice type, like most of the time.
That was an excellent answer. Actors in general always look for affirmation, like after you're done with like, this is my take. So you just gave the answer and then you're like, yeah, no.
Thank you for supporting me.
I support you!
Alright, so I would like to know either one of two things. One, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened while you guys have been voice acting? Or two, what's the funniest thing you guys have had to say?
I can't say the funniest thing I've ever had to say. Though it sounds worse than it is. It was a double entendre, but I don't want to say it.
I love double entendres. They're better than singles. Get it? Heyo. Funniest or weirdest? Funniest or weirdest? Can I tell you a weird con experience? Is that okay? Weird con experience. So there's, how many of you are familiar with Johnny and Bosch? Yay! He has a band called iShine. How many of you? Yay! So I was at a convention a million years ago. It was my second convention ever, and I didn't really understand what was happening. And they had planned for like 3,000 kids, and like 7,000 showed up, and they had this old computer, and they were checking everybody into this computer, and it broke down. And it was also snowing outside, and kids had been lined up since 5 in the morning, and it went like all around the block. Like 100 people were in the building. The capacity was 3,000, so this other 4,000 would get in anyways, and everybody was mad, and there were a lot of kids, and it was snowing, and the parents were there. Everyone was pissed, right? And so we go to opening ceremonies, and it's me and Johnny, and I'm like, hi Johnny, I'm Trina. He's like, we've met. I'm like, I'm a douche. And so we were talking, and the con owner came over and had these clipboards and some markers, and the con owner was like, hey, can you go outside to the crowd and sign autographs while they're waiting, because everyone's really mad. And crowd control's coming, it's getting out of hand, something SWAT. And I was like, why is SWAT coming? Like, what is happening? And they're like, yeah, go ahead and go out there. I'm like, you said SWAT? And like, so they sent,
SWAT?
right? SWAT, So they send Johnny and I out, and at first I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. I feel like, and Johnny's like, are you coming? Do you want to roll? And I was like, I just don't feel like it's time. And he was like, let's roll. I was like, okay, Johnny and Bosh, sure, yeah, okay. So, like, right, it's fine. I'm normal. And so we go outside, and like I have this clipboard, and I'm signing, and I'm next to Johnny and the band. I'm like, I'm totally fine. You guys go ahead. I'm fine. And like, you know when you're in one of those crowds, and it just kind of moves you? And so like I turn around and like Johnny's gone, and I'm like, this is okay. And I turn around and Eyeshine is gone, I'm like, I'm fine. And then like I stop and like there's no one's asking for autographs anymore. I'm just standing there with my badge and a clipboard.
And you see a red dot.
And like, when you have a badge and a clipboard in a sea of angry people, like a mob, like, I mean, not fans. Fans are lovely, and I love fans. And but you know who really doesn't like standing outside since 5 in the morning in the snow with their babies? Moms. Moms don't like it at all. And so they see a clipboard and they just think, oh my gosh, that's somebody that has some information. There's like this mob of moms, like 6 moms, like descend on me because they're like, there's a clipboard somewhere over there. And they like come up to me and they're like, we've been waiting since 5 in the morning. We are cold. My kid needs ID. They don't have ID. They have a library card. Is that going to work? Are you going to let us in? Why are we still out here? I'm like, I'm really sorry. If you just want to come with me, I'll make sure you get in. And then there's like pushing and like craziness, and it's insane. It's freaking insane. And I start to get really scared. And then like I'm like, it's fine. Everything's fine. I start to cry a little bit. It was terrifying. And then like I run into this wall of a man. This giant wall of a man, and he's in like full SWAT gear. And I like grab onto his bulletproof vest, and I grab him and I'm like, please take me inside. I'm very scared. I don't know what's happening. And he like takes off his mask and he's like, Trina, can I have an autograph? I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Sometimes cosplay looks legit.
It looked so real.
I thought there were police at the VIP thing last night.
I did too, not real.
Not real?
Not real.
Cosplay. Cosplay is not law enforcement. Or consent. I got a dumb Johnny story. I told you this one yesterday. We're in the opening ceremonies, people are backstage on their phones, and the con chair is like, well, I'd like to welcome you, blah, blah, blah. This is the 15th year of our thing, blah, 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 doing this whole thing. And Johnny's like, watch this. He goes up to Chris Pratt and goes, they just called your name, man. He's like, what? And he runs out on stage, grabs the microphone away from the crowd. Hi, I'm Chris Pratt. And the dude is like, and then he's like, thanks everybody, I'll see you there. And he like goes off stage, everyone's laughing, he's like, what? And he looks around, he's like, well that was Chris Pratt. He's like, what did you do to me? And this is a real world Johnny story. We were doing a convention in New Zealand, and we got down there, and it was supposed to be in like Auckland and in Christchurch. It was going to be 3 events. Well, the first one got, no, 2. The first one got canceled because there was a huge earthquake in Christchurch. Really devastating, destroyed this beautiful ancient city, very old, like beautiful old, like stone structures which just collapsed. And so we were, for the first week, we were like, well, we're here, and we're going to wait until next weekend for the next thing. It was like over the period of a week. So I rented an old jalopy, and I drove from the north to the south of the North Island to get to the next place. And Johnny was like, well, I got a whole band here, and everyone's waiting on our per diem. So like, we didn't have any currency. We're in another country. It's a little while ago, so like, you couldn't just Apple Pay or like Samsung Pay things. And there was a penalty if you get money out. So Johnny was very disciplined. He was like, all right, guys, let's go make some money. So Eyeshine went to the streets of New Zealand and started playing in the street.
Shut up.
I got photos of it. It's great.
Shut up.
And then they go to like a convenience store, like split like a loaf of bread and some cold cuts because like, they were like trying to make it work. They had a hotel, but they didn't have any money.
What?
So they were like singing for their supper. It's nuts. And we're all like, hey, guy, the organizer's like, yeah, we'll see you down there in the south. And we're like, no, come back. We have no money. We're stranded. Well, get a flight next Friday. What? No. So then they were like,
my God.
totally doing that. And the funniest thing in the studio was when George Takei was in Studiopolis, and there's this guy that used to run between their different locations and facilitate things. Anyway, George Takei wanted a cup of tea, so he's there. He's got his tea, and he's it's diffusing and it's becoming tea. Now it's kind of oversteep, so he's trying to get rid of it. And this kid runs in. He's like, "Hey man, anything?" He's like, "Well, I'm done with my tea." he's like, oh, he goes, where do I put this? And he goes, oh, I can take that for you. And he goes, oh, well, my tea bag is very hot. And the guy goes, oh, I think I can take it. And then George Takei goes, oh my. True all my story, right?
I have a George story briefly.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's amazing.
Was there ever a time where you got to use your normal voice?
Never. I never used my normal voice. Wait, what? Oh, you mean work? Sorry. Voice acting? Oh, use your normal voice.
Yeah, for sure. I think I have a hard time remembering what my normal voice is. I'm not really, like, is my normal voice like my sleepy time voice? Is my normal voice my awake voice? Is this my normal voice? I really don't know. I hope I know. I would hope. I just don't know. But I assume that I have. Because they're all normal to me. They're all different versions of things, but characters and whatnot. I think I've just been doing it for a minute. I honestly don't know what my normal voice is. I assume this is it, but I'm not sure.
That's an interesting perspective on that. Yeah, like what is your normal? I think one of the things that's interesting is, in my natural communication, I'll vary wildly, but then when you're doing a character, if you go too high, too low, they're like, oh, it's off character. And you're like, well, is it? Because if I'm me, I will go all over the place. But also, I do find for a lot of actors, and sometimes for me, it's harder to do a no voice than to affect a voice. When you affect a voice, the choices are there, and also by getting into that character and doing things, then you can, it'll dictate more choices, right? But if you're just doing you have to really sort of be at peace with yourself and be comfortable there. I know some actors who have a hard time acting when they're not doing more, when they're not being extra, if they're just being plain. But I did this one session with this guy Voltaire. It was Teddy Bear, and they would always do this like yearly online game thing. And for the first time ever, Teddy Bear was going to speak, and he asked me to do the voice. So we go to the studio, and I'm like, "What do you want to sound like?" He's like, "He's never spoken before. This will set whatever Teddy Bear sounds like." And I was like, experimenting all these things and throwing all these things out there and pitching him. And then he was like, "No, just talk like you." And I was like, "What? This is Teddy Bear? This is what Teddy Bear sounds like, really?" He had this character. He's all adorable and like sort of like angry, cute bear. But now he's just going to be like, "Hey, what's up?" So that's all it was. I was so confused by it. But like me having just to do me with no affectation to play this Teddy Bear was like super confusing to me. It was so confusing to me. What an insightful question. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I love your cosplay. You look dope.
A couple questions back, someone said about shows that you do that have impacts and meaning to people. For me, it was Steins Gate. I really want to thank you for that. My question was actually about that. Going back to Steins Gate for Steins Gate Zero as Kurisu, how easy or hard was it getting back into the role? Did you try a different approach? Or I guess my question in general is, how easy is it going back to a character years later to play them again?
Yeah, sure. Steins Gate is a great show, and I'm very, very fortunate to have been part of it. The director, Colleen Klinkenbeard, is amazing and very smart, and made some really, she made the show much easier to record, considering for those of you that aren't familiar with the show Steins Gate, it jumps around in different timelines and deals with time travel. And so my character in any one episode could be the same character, but 3 or 4 different versions of herself, depending on what had happened to her. What had happened was, so it was really challenging, but Colleen was amazing in helping me find her voice and find who she was in that moment, considering what timeline we were on. So I have to credit Colleen for that 100%. As far as recording Steins Gate Zero years later, so there are references in all shows where you go in and the engineer or director will play a voice reference. So you kind of have the voice in your head. I certainly did go back and watch season 1 before we recorded the movie. And then I spent 4 months in a small padded room crying, and it was great. Not for my boyfriend, but for me. I let a lot of stuff go. And then now that we're back in season 2. It's been really remarkable and really amazing, and Chris George, who took the helm as director, has made it a dream. So I'd like to take credit for that as well, because who doesn't like taking credit? But I can't. So yeah, it's been a great show, and thank you for watching. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you. And you look amazing too. You look awesome.
Mic drop.
That's what that was.
My same as right. Hey there, pleasure. So, as far as I know, both of you have done voice acting in Western cartoons. So, what would you say is the biggest difference between voice acting in Japanese animation versus Western cartoons? Is there even a difference at all? Does it depend on characters, or direction, or anything whatsoever? Is there anything you personally noticed in your career about it?
Yes. I would say, so there are a couple differences, and one of them I think is changing. So the one I think is changing is aesthetic. There's definitely sort of a sound we're used to hearing in anime, right? The high school girls are squeaky, you know, that kind of stuff. But I think that's sort of evolving, depending on where it's being done. Less and less are people feeling as obligated to copy the sound of anime when they're telling the stories in an anime. So that may be changing a little bit. But the fundamental difference and the huge, workflow disparity is that with an anime, you see all your choices manifested in front of you. They are realized, and you have to serve those choices. How far away is the person I'm speaking to? Like, what's my body position? What's the action? What is the timing of the words I'm saying? All that stuff has to be served so that it doesn't seem discordant with what you're seeing when you hear it in performance. So having to justify your performance to make it sound authentic and like you're saying for the first time, but hit all those marks is really challenging. When you start doing Western stuff and you have a script, and sometimes not even descriptions in that script, like when I did Ninja Turtles, we had lines, but no, they enter the sewer, or they stand in front of 50 foot soldiers. They're just lines, and it's on you to imagine what it is. They used to give us storyboards, which is like that much of a comic book, and you're like, what is going on? Right? But after a while they stopped because it killed too many trees, and not everybody was actually referencing it. So the director has to be like, okay, now you're doing this, and go. But you have to come up with all your own ideas. And having come from doing a lot of anime and then starting Turtles, I was like, I can do anything. Too much freedom. Wait, what? And then I got used to that. Then I went back to anime and went, can I just? No, I can't, because they didn't. So those are the two big differences for me.
Agreed.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Hi. I'm also an actor, but I've been doing live action. The recent film I was in was Happy Death Day 2, and I have a recent project that's filming in March. And I would love to transition to voice acting. I was wondering, would that be easy or hard for me?
Where do you live?
I currently live in DC, but sometimes I work in Toronto or in Georgia.
Oh yeah, cool.
Georgia. Georgia's an excellent place for cartoons. There are a lot of recording studios there. I'm not sure about how many studios are here in DC, but you are close to New York. I know a guy.
Yeah, I am a guy.
You're the guy.
I do get sometimes people reaching out to me. There's a wonderful actor who's a friend of mine. He started off in New York, doing a lot of Broadway stuff. He lives here now, Jamie McDonald, sweetheart. And we did tons of stuff together. He was in Magic Users Club, a series that we really loved. He was like the main dorky magic boy who started the Magic Club and that. But he lives here now, and he does come up sometimes to work. It's harder because you can't be around for auditions, but more and more, voiceover auditions are self-submit. So if you set up something in your house, you can just literally phone it in. They'll send you the audition copy and the character, and then you record it, send it in, and if they like you, then you can figure out getting there. But be honest about not living where they are. Because we've had issues where, and other studios have complained about this, where they say, oh no, I'm there, I'm local, I'm totally there. Wink, wink, I can be there if I have to be. But if you don't say that, they're like, we need you at 3 o'clock, and you can't be there at 3 o'clock. They'll be like, you said you were here, we have an emergency, something happened, But if we know we have to work around that, we can, and we will. But you can self-submit. The issue is getting on people's radar to audition for stuff. If you want to do anime, it's sort of down to each individual recording studio. If you want to do other like original animation, then you can go through agents and stuff. Are you union as well, since you're doing those things? Right, then I don't know if you're represented by anyone now, but if you have an on-camera agent, I would ask them if you can speak to their voiceover department if they have one. If they don't, then just reach out to somebody. There are a lot of resources online for that. What was voice bank is now a video voice bank, I think, and you can look at all the agencies' breakdowns of their talent pools by male, female, commercial, narration, and see what the demos sound like and who's got what. And maybe if they don't have your type, then you can reach out and go, this is what I sound like, you need me, you're welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah?
Nice day.
You too. Sorry about
Hi,
that.
Trina. I'm sorry it took a while. It took a while to find the ATM, and when I came back, you were gone like, oh crap.
You know?
I took $40.
You're
and-
fine, sweetheart. Do you have a
still have that
question?
money?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I have $40.
You're fine. Well, we could deal with that
Grab that
later.
afterwards.
Yeah. So, did you have a question?
Well, not really.
That's okay. Well, thank you for your information. You're perfect. You're lovely.
Can I say one thing, Mike? I want to thank you for the gravy!
Oh my gosh. Eugenio.
God, look for a second. I got a digital copy because I couldn't find a physical copy. I did, but it was like, I was at my home and I finished college recently. I'm like, well, might as well get started on Bravely Second.
Congrats. I didn't like Bravely Second. I haven't finished it. There was one thing in Bravely Second that I thought was sad that they cut out. There was the character, they call her a cat dancer because she's like a cat whisperer. She whispers to cats. But originally in the Japanese version it was called Nekomancer, which I thought was much funnier. Nekomancer. See, it's
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's funny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, 2 questions. First question. What did the cow put on the hot dog?
I don't know.
I got nothing.
I just racked my brain. I couldn't figure it out.
Rooster.
Booster.
Yep.
Booster. All right.
Okay. So, my next question is, when you're auditioning for a role, for a line, what usually happens? Are you given like a description of the voice that they want you to hear, or how does that happen?
So first of all, I'd like to point out the Toastmasters rule is always leave with a joke, so commendable. And yeah, they're supposed to give you descriptions. Sometimes they give you a visual image, but sometimes, like in video games, I'm working on a game right now where we're casting it and directing it in New York, and they won't give us the images. I was like, is there some pre-res thing, some previs thing that we can use? And they're like, well, it's very top secret. I'm like, yeah, but they have what they're playing. So what they did is they gave us like snippets of movie characters, and I've seen this before, where it's like this guy from this movie.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay. But for commercials, they often don't know what they want until they hear it, which is very creative. They're actually just like throwing a bunch of like auditions to the wall and seeing what sticks. So this one, they're like, we're reading for this young guy. Who is this young guy? Well, he may be this. He may be that. And I was like, he's literally no one. I guess I'll just do whatever I feel like, and then if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But for character stuff, they usually have an idea. I'm doing another thing, and the showrunner is a guy from the AMC, and it's the most intricate, beautiful descriptions that are really actionable, which is tricky. Well, we always get our clients to sort of rethink what they're saying in the descriptions, because they can sometimes be very sort of like passive or resulty things, but they're not really playable. And the fundamental thing about acting is, it's doing, or it's responding. So if they're just like, be angry, you're not doing angry. Like something happened to make you angry, so if you focus on that process, and I like to write those in the descriptions, but they don't always come to me that way, so I have to kind of reverse engineer it to make it happen. In fact, on Ninja Turtles, the Leonardo description was the one I thought was the worst, and the one I thought I wouldn't book. In fact, in the audition, they're like, hey, who do you want to lead with? And I was like, can I do Leo first? I think it's going to be my worst one.
Oh no!
Yeah, and P.S. I'm making these guys stay late to record a guy that crashed the audition. So they were like, I'm sorry, what did you say? And I was like, I went, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not very talented. I'd like to get this over with as quickly and painlessly as possible, please. I literally said that. They're like, just talk. So I did it. And the description for Leo was, everything you want in a hero and more.
That's it?
And then it was like, he's the leader. And I was like, I get that he leads, but everything I want in a hero is flying first. You don't fly, so it's everything you want in a hero and not the things you actually want. But So I did it, then immediately I was like, see, I just don't sound like big, leader, brave. They're like, they're Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, just read it again. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll just do me. I was like, hey guys, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, okay, fine. And then Peter later picked it. But descriptions, yeah, even that description I thought it wasn't weird. So sometimes you get them and they're not enough, so you have to add stuff. And people like that. If you bring more to it, then you will stand out from all the other auditions where people are doing just what they're told. Don't play safe. Don't try to do it right. Break things. Move fast and break things. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Just give me the heads up, we're just under 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Hi. I wanted to know, out of all of the characters I've seen that played, which one did you take, like, first? Like, the character that was, like, most emotional or you felt, like, most attached to?
I love all of my characters.
I love all of your characters too.
Thanks.
And yeah, there's definitely stuff where I'm like, oh, that was hard, or I brought something of myself to it. But for whatever reason, when you asked me that question, I had this like eclipse of what those memories were. Definitely getting to do something for more time. Like Turtles went on for like 7 years. The Venture Brothers are still going since 2003. Now we're like 14, 15, going on 16 years of being one character. But I'm trying to remember. I don't want to give you a non-answer, but if I think of it, I'm going to blurt out in the middle of my other answer what that was. But I know I've done things where I'm like, whoa, that was a lot to bring to something, you know. And then it was like very connected and personal. It's like I like the eyes rolled back and I was possessed, and now I don't remember being possessed. But I know
That's how
that
possession
experience.
works, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And possession is 7 tenths.
It's an excellent question.
Yeah.
And you look beautiful. Not that that's everything. You're also very brave, obviously.
All right, this is something of an industry question. For those of us who are breaking into the industry and maybe don't have agents or anything, I'm specifically very interested in trying to find work with Funimation in the future. How do certain studios feel about things like cold calls or walk-in auditions? How do things typically tend to go in those sorts of situations?
To speak to Funimation specifically, there is no such thing as a walk-in audition. Showing up at the studio, if you don't have an appointment, if you don't have identification, if you're not supposed to be there, they simply will not let you into the building. And that's a safety reason and for the safety of the people that work there, etc. As far as cold calling, Funimation does have a list of people that want to audition for them. That list is now, I think if you joined it now, it's a 5-year waiting list. So I wouldn't recommend going that route either. If you are really like, I really want to work at Funimation, if that's like your goal, my number one piece of advice would be that you have to live there. I mean, unfortunately, like it's just, unless you're already pretty established as a voice actor, it's really hard to get work there. There are people that live in LA or New York that can, what is that called? When they go boop, 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 from like Bryce is in LA and he's recording.
Oh, Source Connect?
Source Connect. There's stuff where you can record remotely, but if you haven't ever worked in the industry before, it's honestly pretty rough to like be able to have that sort of in. That isn't to say you'll never do it and it'll never happen, nor is it to say pick up your whole life and move to Dallas. But what I am saying is that if you really want to do it, if it really is your dream, then nothing will stop you. Not even me. Not that I would. But I would say getting an agent is paramount, because if you submit through an agent, you have probably 100 billion% more chance of being heard than if you just submit by yourself.
I know that a lot of anime producing companies have a lot of fans who are like, I want to do this. I can talk. Let me talk on your thing. So it's going to be important to distinguish yourself as an actor and a professional, and not a fan. With all due respect, you know what I mean? Cool. So then like if you can show like a resume that has like classes and a demo that sounds strong, that's going to help a lot. But everything she said is absolutely right. And we've had even my tiny little studio, people just show up at the door. We're like, what is going on? And then it's a little bit weird. Also for us, it's not just a security thing in terms of safety, but also like we now, because we're working with clients that demand a certain level of security, we can't let people in. We had to change all the locks to be like keyless entry and things like that to secure servers and media stuff. For instance, like I work with Netflix, and they had an issue with a very like rich, established old post-production company, and still Orange is the New Black got leaked somehow. So everyone's like watching stuff. We have security cameras everywhere, and it's a thing where we can't just have like strangers showing up. So that'll also make you look like you're not professional, because professionals would have their agent call. But if you have an agent, they can do it for you, great. Or even a manager, or even pretend to be your own manager, as long as it's not you making the call. You'd be like, and you can use the power of your voice acting. I know people have done that kind of stuff and gotten real far. So, all right.
Thank you.
Hello, so for Michael, as a voice actor, like, what do you think is the method that works
We can do him. We can do him too.
Yeah, we'll do it up.
and also like both of you as voice actors is like kind of the best method that directors like for you when you're voice actors that directors direct you. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I'm directing, I feel like my job as a director is not to sit on high and go, I'm the director, do as I say. My job as a director is to find out what motivates and inspires you as an actor and then communicate with you on that level. And I think my job is to excite your imagination and make you come to choices. I never give a line reading. I mean, occasionally someone's like doing the punctuation wrong. I'm like, oh no, it's not, look ahead of the road, it's look ahead in the road. But generally, I want the actor's imagination. That's why I cast them. I believe in the collaborative process, and it's not just I don't want everyone to sound like me doing that role. I want everyone to sound like them doing that role, and I just want to help you do that. That's sort of the fundamental thing that I start with. And I did a favor for Matthew McKean, who's like a famous old actor from the 80s, and he said something to me that I thought was interesting. He was talking with this client in Spanish, and then they're looking at me like nodding and kind of smiling. I was like, why are you staring at me? And he's like, it's a confidence game, isn't it? You want to get what you need out of the performer, but you don't want them to think they're doing it wrong, so you have to give them confidence. And I was like, it's a confidence game. I never thought of it that way. As long as you don't call it a con game. Yeah. So I want to build your confidence. I believe in supporting you and saying, like, I use compliments, not like criticisms, yeah.
I think collaboration is so important in general, and it's really nice when you do have a director that allows you to make choices and allows you to explore different avenues and different reads, and then gives you input or boost your confidence. So I think collaboration is so important in any creative process.
Yeah, one thing, by contrast, a lot of the actors I work with in New York worked with 4Kids. 4Kids had a very different thing. 4Kids wanted to nail sync right away with no preview, and if you could do that, then you were very good. It's a very specific skill, and it wasn't really about acting. But when I had actors come from there into my booth, and then we would do more than a third take, they were like, what's wrong with me? Why don't you like me? I'm like, no, we're trying it this way, we're trying it that way, let's see what really works, and let's explore it. Then they would calm down and go, oh yeah, acting as a process. Yeah.
Voice acting.
Yeah, oh cool, not just like hitting that sync, yeah.
Thank you.
So, I'm losing their voice. So, one thing I want to say is I really like Steins Gate, and I really appreciate your work in it, and I also it's really just like, it's really captured my imagination, and it's not what you normally see, so I really appreciate that, so thank you for that. And then also, I want to know, I haven't really conceptualized in my mind how you can make your words sync to words that were supposed to be in a different language, and then also, so I am interested, what exactly is the syncing process? And even like, is it animated before they have any lines? Like, how does it work?
It depends on the kind of cartoon that you're working on, right? So what he was talking about with Ninja Turtles, it's not animated yet, right? Or video games, you might go in and have like a whole novel or novella of information and screens and things like that, and it hasn't been recorded yet, or drawn, or animated, or however they wizard on the computer. But for dubbing, specifically, right, for Japanese cartoons, when you're dubbing them into English, there is a screen, and there are two screens, one with a script and one with animation. And on the animation, you'll see your characters say like, "Let's go over there," right? And maybe instead of just "let's go over there," right, there might be like a "let's go over there," right? Like, so even the director or the writer or whomever figure out a way to fill out that. So yeah, it's watching it in Japanese and hearing the Japanese voice in your head, in your headphones, and then you look at the English translation that's been adapted and into a script, and you figure out how to make those words fit into the mouth movements about let's go over there, and then you figure that out and figure out how to apply your character into that space of mouth movements. Does that make sense? Oh.
Yeah, it's really the job of the adapter. We just did a live action dub for Netflix called Kingdom. If you like zombies, it's a period Korean zombie drama series. And it's great. And apparently a couple people on the internet, when they started watching it, they're like, oh, they just shot it in English. But it's really hard, especially in live action. So I think look to live action for that because it's really hard. But we had one actor who played like this older doctor guy, and it's so funny. He had a great voice for it, but he himself is like this super urban, ripped dude with like jewels and like cap, and he's like, yo, what's up, what's up? And then he comes in and goes, your father was doing this back in the ancient days. And then I was like, cool, do this. He's like, oh, poor, my bad, my bad. And then the code switching was insane. But he came across every discovery that a dubbing voice actor needs to. He was like, yo, so when you pause, you gotta like have a reason. I was like, yes. You can't just be like talk, talk, stop, talk, talk, talk.
Right.
And he was genius in that thing. But one of the things I do to help write my scripts is rather than watch it, write it, because I can run Pro Tools, I just record myself speaking along, and I'll try to do different ways and see what works, and then move on to the next line, and then later I transcribe it. So if anyone wants to mess around with that, you can do it at home on, GarageBand or Final Cut or Premiere or Fruity Loops or Reaper is a free digital audio workstation you can download. It's very powerful. So then, yeah, that's how I do the script adaptations. And if you do one and it's good, reach out to me on the social media. Maybe I'll hire you. We need writers. Yeah.
Before we go, I just wanted to thank everybody once again for coming out and
looking so good.
And looking so good. And let you know that both of us have an autograph session at 3. And I will actually be heading to the autograph tables now because this will be my last autograph session for the weekend. So I'll be there for about an hour beforehand. If you'd like an autograph, you get one.
You get the one they're hot. What's my thing tonight? Oh, whose line is it? Anime?
Whose line is it, Katsucon?
Oh, whose line is it? Katsucon?
Today it's 30th.
8:30, I believe. She believes.
Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate all of you.